To make your bread rolls, you need 300 grams of strong plain flour, which I've got in my bowl. If you've just got normal plain flour, that will do. I've added half a teaspoon of salt and I've got 15 grams of margarine. And the first thing that you need to do is just rub the butter into the flour using your fingertips. It won't take very long because you've got a small amount of margarine and a large amount of flour. So this will not go to breadcrumbs like it did for scones or crumble or pastry. You just need to get rid of the margarine and rub that in, and that just helps your bread rolls stay fresh a little bit longer when they're cooked. When you think it's done, shake your bowl. Any large lumps of margarine would rise to the top. So if you can't see any lumps of margarine, that's done. Then I've got a sachet of fast acting yeast. That gets poured in and we just mix that up. The last thing to be added, I'm sorry, I can just hear my cat crying in the background. The last thing to be added is the water. Hold on a sec. Cat's gone. So the next thing to add is the water, and you need to have 200 mils of warm water in your jug. And I don't like using warm water from the tap. So what I've got in my jug is 100 mils of cold water from the tap, and I've boiled my kettle and I'm just going to make it up to 200 mils with some boiling water. And if I put my finger in that now, that's fine, that's warm. So same as when you've done other liquids, other mixtures, you put your liquid into the dry and you stir with a knife. So stir with a knife until it forms a dough. And I didn't add all of my water in one go, but I can see that that is not going to be enough to go together. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of the water. Always best not to add it all in one go. I'm really sorry. If you can hear the cat in the background, this is a new cat. I haven't done a video since I had this cat. And because I'm talking, he's talking to me as well. So in the background, if you can hear the cat, I apologise. When the dough almost goes together, like that, so you can see it's nearly together, there's a little bit of dry in there, put your hand in and knead. And what you're looking for is to squash this all together. So don't just pat it around the bowl like that because it won't work. You have to knead, turn the mixture over, fold it in half and try and absorb all of the flour in your bowl. And you can see I've got almost no dry mixture in there now. And I still have not used all of my water, so be very cautious about adding all your water in one go. It is easier to work with bread that is too wet rather than too dry, but try not to add all your water. Once you've got one ball of dough and a clean bowl, put it down on your worktop and you're going to knead this. Now bread dough will dry up as it kneads, as you knead it, and you may not need any flour on your worktop if you work it quickly. And you knead by taking the mixture furthest away from you, fold the dough in half and push away using the fat bit of your hand. Then turn the dough and you keep going until your dough is nice and smooth, and this should take you 5 to 10 minutes. If I turn my dough over and hold it close, hopefully you can see this dough is not smooth on the back. It's got little dents and little marks in it, and you keep going until this dough is nice and smooth. So knead for 5 to 10 minutes. Once you've kneaded your dough for 5 minutes and it's nice and smooth and soft, put it back into your bowl. Cover the bowl with cling film if you've got time and leave it to rise to prove until it's doubled in size. If you are slow in making your bread for whatever reason, you may have to miss out on the proving. But if you can, leave it somewhere warm to double in size, leave it to rise. However long you can leave it to rise, it will be better than just making the bread rolls straight away. Okay, my bread's been rising for 20 minutes, and as you can see, it's doubled in size, and if you touch it, it's nice and soft. So now this bread needs to be turned out and what we call knocked back. And I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on there because sometimes it's a little bit wet. So just going to get the remainder of the dough out of the bowl. Put this on here, and I'm just going to knead it quickly. This knocks out all the air, all the carbon dioxide that's being produced by the yeast while the bread was rising. So I'm just going to knead that, and then I'm going to shape my rolls. So to shape your bread, the first thing you need to do is divide it into even sized pieces. So this is enough to make 8 rolls. So cut it in half, cut it into quarters, and cut each piece then in half. So you get 8 even sized pieces of dough. If you want these all to cook at the same time, you need them to be all the same size before they go in the oven. So each individual piece of dough has to be kneaded before you shaped, and because this is so small, I'm literally just using 2 fingers to knead this. If you want to do plain round rolls, knead like you did before. Take the mixture from the outside, push it into the middle, then scrunch this up, turn it over, shape it with your hands, and you have a nice little round ball of dough. If you don't do that, if you just knead it and turn it over and don't make your dough look particularly nice and put it in the oven like that, this is bread dough, it's not going to smooth itself out. So I'll cook that one as well, just to show you what happens if you don't shape your bread correctly. So that was just a plain roll, but you can do fancy rolls with your dough as well. So once it's kneaded, you can roll your dough into a strip. Okay, so if you keep rolling this out until it's a nice long strip, and then if you want, you can tie a knot in it. So you can make a knot, and as long as there is no gaps in there, that one can go to rise. If you want to do a twist or something a bit more fancy, I've just cut one piece of dough in half, and I'm going to roll both halves out to the same length. So I'm just going to roll both half bits of dough into a nice long thin strip, and then I'm going to do a twist with these. So this roll will end up the same size as the others, even though I've cut it in half, so that's why I need to do 2 bits so that they all cook at the same time. So if you have your 2 bits of dough rolled out, what you need to do is put one on top of the other like that, and then just take the 2 ends and fold them alternately so that they stack on top of each other. And as you get more towards the top and they get a bit more difficult, you can do that, and then when you put it down, it looks like you've got a really complicated twist. So that, having done the twist, is the same size as the other rolls there. If you wanted to do a plait, you would need to cut your bread into 3. So if you wanted to do a traditional plait, cut your roll or the piece of dough for your roll into 3 pieces and roll them all out so that they are the same length. Makes it much easier to plait. That one's a bit short, I'll roll that one again in a minute. Here we go. So I have 1, go, 1, 2, 3, and I'm just pinching them together at one end, and then exactly the same as you would plait your hair, you just go take the outside piece each time and wrap it over the piece next to it. So depending on how long you've made your strips, that will affect how long your plait is. That's made quite a long plait, so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to curl it up like that and turn that one into a round. So far I've got one unshaped, one round, one knot, a twist, a plaited round. I'm going to do something else you can do with a round piece of dough. If you make a long or slightly pear-shaped piece of dough, you can turn this into a hedgehog by getting scissors and snipping spines or in the dough all over the shape of the bread. So go all the way over, just snip some little bits of bread so that they rise up, and then using the ends of your scissors you make eyes at the front. If you want, and you've got a couple of raisins or some dried fruit, you can put those in, but the little spines just need to stick up. Another shape that you can do if you wish to, if you just take your piece of dough and roll it, doesn't have to be particularly big, but you can just form this into an S. And then the last one I'm just going to do into a coil. So I'm just going to roll this one out into a slightly longer strip. There we go. Start in the middle and then just roll it up. Right. If you left it open like that, it could almost be a snail, or tuck that in and I have a coil. So all my 8 bread rolls are shaped, and despite the fact that they're all different shapes, they're all roughly the same size, so they should all cook at the same time. I'm going to brush them with milk and have a look and see if I've got any poppy seeds that I can put on the top, but definitely they're going to be brushed with milk, and they're going into a really hot oven. So they go into an oven 220 degrees, gas mark 8, for about 10 minutes. If you have time, you can leave these again to rise a little bit, because they only take 10 minutes to cook. And the way you would tell if they were ready to go into the oven, if you touch it gently with your finger, you shouldn't be able to see a fingerprint there. So this one, I'm touching it gently, but you can't actually see a fingerprint where I've touched it. That's because the bread continues to rise as you're shaping it. So as soon as they're brushed, into the oven for 10 minutes. Okay, the rolls have had 10 minutes in a hot oven, and the way that you tell if your bread is cooked, you turn it over, you tap the bottom and it should sound hollow. So all of these are cooked. This is the round roll that I shaped, and this one, hot. You can see the shape of the dough stayed. If you don't shape these properly and turn them over, you won't get a nice round shaped roll. So all of the others are there. Got the hedgehog, got the knot, all the other rolls are cooked. The snail one has come up a bit like a twist. So the S sorted itself out. That was the one where you just had the 2 strips, and that's the plait that I turned and twisted into a round. So the rolls are all cooked, 10 minutes, golden brown.